Redo? Okej, kör igång.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's evening debate. So during the debate it's very important that you all are quiet because we're live streaming the debate so that the live stream will hear the candidates speaking. So yeah, let's get started. How are you feeling today or tonight? Are you feeling good?
Tremendous.
Good. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good as well.
Great. And I'm feeling good as well. That's amazing. Then we'll have a lovely debate tonight. Okay. So to warm up a little bit, we will start off with a case, and you have also gotten the questions beforehand. So we read them. Great. So the case is this. So Lagergren calls you early in the morning and tells you that the atrium is in a state of chaos after a student event held by an event group that you have not directly managed. How do you handle the situation? Rebecca, do you want to start?
Yes. So firstly what I would do when it comes to the atrium is to make clear to Lagergren that I take this with the utmost importance. This will be my first priority because I know communication with the school, especially in regards to the atrium, is very important. Because if we jeopardize this situation, it could jeopardize the use of it for example, for Handelsdagarna or the summer party. Afterwards, I will not take any time to blame someone for it. I would rather find a solution first. I will have a meeting with the vice president, since he or she is responsible for the operational work. And I will also find the responsible party and try to come up with a solution. If we do not find a solution, I would involve the SASSE board. Because I know the SASSE board knows as well as me that it's very important to have a good conversation with the school. So if we do not find a solution, the SASSE board will have to step up and basically clean the atrium ourselves. However, afterwards, I will look into how this happened and how we can prevent it in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you for the answer. Filip, you want to
Okay, so this question pretty much has two parts, the short term and the long term. In the short term, we have to make sure that we can get the atrium to where it's decided as fast as possible. In that sense, we would like to get as many people as possible involved in cleaning up the atrium. That's priority number one. Priority number two is to talk to science and make sure that he feels safe, that we won't happen again. That's the long-term part. And just as Rebecca said, we want to make sure that we can use the atrium in the future. And that's very dependent on how we handle the situation in the short term.
Should I take the next? Cool. I think what you guys have said is completely right, and I think it's the right approach. In the moment, I try to calm Suggs down. I think that's the way you should start. Make sure that he knows that, yes, we take full responsibility for what we've done with the atrium, as SASSE in general. We try to calm him out, and after that, call the project leader or the person who had the event and ask what happened, why is the atrium instead of kids. After that, make sure you have people responsible come in, help clean up, and like Rebecca said, completely build on that. If they are willing to clean up. From my experience, they have been. Most of the times when the classes up there, people are willing to come in the next day. The SASSE board takes responsibility. And I think what you guys have said is super important when it comes to preventing this in the future, building on the fact that the handover is super important. After this entire firewall has settled down, you sit back and talk to the project leader saying, hey, what has gone wrong? How do we prevent this? And what measures should we take next year? And what is important to keep in mind next year when you're hosting something in the atrium or somewhere else, around home?
Thank you. Really nice answers. Not as nice to go last, but I think that in this case it's weird because I think it's very likely to never happen because the school is supposed to be very hard to work with regarding the atrium, so having backups there in the future is not that likely. I know we'll get, perhaps we'll have it. I just look forward to that. But I think this shouldn't happen for one reason, and that is before someone has a banquet or a party in the atrium, they should have no responsibilities. We should have an excessive conversation about, okay, what is expected from you. If I get this call in the morning, me and Simon are good friends, so I'm friendly. But I would make sure personally to call up the project group, go with myself. I'm not afraid to get my necessarily help clean up, and of course making sure that this never happens again. Having a good relationship with the school is the utmost importance. So, yeah.
Thank you, great answer. So let's move on to the next question. So this question is about your priorities as president. So you as president of SASSE have a responsibility to make sure all functions are maintained, and also time is scarce as your role as president. So how will you manage your responsibilities while pushing the changes you are promising as part of your campaign? Do you want to go first?
Yes. This is something that's very difficult, as you mentioned. Times are scarce, and it will always be. And this was something that I realized when I sat down to do my election promises as well, that it's really, really difficult to come up with ideas and things to improve, which you also feel like you can actually do, right? And that's why I made my election promises in a way that there are things that you can always have in the back of your head, visions that you can try to apply in everything you do to different types of extents, of course. But like variation, how do we include that in every decision we make? Yeah, so it shouldn't be something that you do next to your everyday work. It should be something that you can insert into your everyday work.
Great, thank you for your answer. Sandra, do you want to go?
Yes, so I agree with Filip there that it's interesting to look at the election promises when it comes to this, because often you see election promises that are not very useful in terms of time and the amount of influence that the association has. So I think this goes back to looking at the relationship with the school and looking how SASSE works with the school, because many of these election promises that many has proposed in the past, many candidates and many elected members of the SASSE board, depends on having the school taking active part in doing something, especially regarding student health and study places. So I think the most important thing here is to realize that we need to work with the school more, and that's one of my promises, to improve the relationship with the school in order for our year and future generations to make promises that are actually feasible.
Great, thank you. Ryan, do you want?
So just like as I was said, I have to wrestle with this, and if you follow my campaign, you know that I reason the lines of the fact that SASSE is a pretty old organization and it isn't very different from how it was earlier. A lot of the stuff we have today has been like this for a longer period of time, and it's kind of grown incrementally, right? And I think that's the mindset like we're talking about now that you should have. You can't make things come with radical change within a year. It's not really possible. But you should work with it, and I think the way to do so is not take that on entirely yourself. I think working groups is a great way to start. I think what you should do is create working groups with different parties. Like one of my election processes was the website, and I think that is something that the media committee and the executive committee president and any other person involved should, or any other person interested should get involved with too, because you come with different ideas, different perspectives, and you have more time as a president to focus on strategic operations. This also should be focusing on too.
Yes, so what I would say in regards to this question when it comes to operational work and your own ideas, I can only talk from own experience, because when I was elected Handelslager president for approximately 1 year ago, I had so many ideas, I would do so many new things, but I quickly realized that day-to-day operation is very hard because it's very much to do. But one thing I learned is you still need when it comes to being able to do new stuff. And therefore, during the spring, I worked very early with trying to find new solutions. For example, we wanted to have a more diversified group at Handelslager for companies attending. So we started very early to do startups. Could that work? We worked with a new idea, and now we will hopefully have a startup balcony. So I think working very early with the new initiatives and things that you want to change is very important. So it's both the time aspect, but it's also the aspect with regards to trust. For example, the SASSE president has a lot of things to do, but they also have a board to work with. So if the SASSE president cannot trust the board to do their work, and that they understand both the needs but also the importance of their role, then I don't think we will be able to change anything or improve anything. So being ahead of time when it comes to creating new stuff, but also to have trust in your fellow board members, I believe is very important. To manage and do all the things with regards to operational work and strategic work.
Thank you all, great answers. So let's move on to the next section, which will be regarding leadership. So you as SASSE president will work with the SASSE board as you previously managed, but what will you do to create a good group dynamic in the SASSE board as a leader? Yeah, right.
Yeah, cool. So when it comes to good group dynamic, I think what you were touching on is super important, the fact that you have a group to work with and the fact that people feel like this is a place you want to be in. I think that's really important to keep that. As a SASSE president, I'm going to be a good sounding board for my SASSE board. Sounding board in Swedish is bollplank. So someone, right, I think we're doing this because we love it so much and you can't forget that. I also think it's important to establish that you're someone who can have people's backs. You're not afraid to take conflict, whether that's with the school or whether that's something that's happened during one of our events. If people feel like they can't do it themselves, I want to be a person they can turn to, I want to be a person they can seek help from, or just seek random advice from, right? A helping hand in all kinds of matters.
Thank you. Someone?
So I think this answer can be super important that the president realizes that he or she is not, he's not supposed to boss the other members of the board around. He's supposed to be a leader that's going to listen into the other members, taking their opinions and what they want to achieve with the year into account, and then working very hard to make sure that all of these opinions are heard. And that not someone is walked over and that someone that screams loudest are ignored, but making sure that they have an unbiased role, making sure that everyone is heard, and making sure before they even start, or we even start the year, that, okay, what do you want to achieve this year? How can we work together to achieve that, and how can I be an assistant to make sure we manage to reach your goals?
Thank you. Filip, here we go.
Is it working? Yes. Okay. I also think that creating relationships is or can be divided into three parts. I think the first part is willingness. Everyone in a group, no matter which group, have to be willing to create bonds and relationships with everyone else. That's the first step. This is usually quite easy in SASSE context because most people who seek and get into SASSE are usually those types of people who like to meet new friends and who wants to work all together. So that's the first part. The second part is time. And you can't underestimate the value of time when creating relationships. You have to spend time with each other. It doesn't really matter if you're working together or if you're having fun together or hopefully both. But you have to have time together and you have to be willing to do it. The third part is like action. Things you do in order to spend time with each other and in order to create willingness within the group. This is my management theory, by the way. Yeah, those actions can be different things. It's usually the things that you always do. It's games. It might be go to a bar. It doesn't really matter. It's about spending time and creating willingness within the group. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. What I would say is I have been involved in boards, organizations outside of SASSE, within SASSE, on all different levels. It could be local in Stockholm or like a small community control here in SASSE or a large community control. What I would say is the first thing I learned is a lot of people are different. Everyone has different needs and everyone needs different guiding, and maybe having, for example, feedback sessions isn't something that works for everyone. Or attending a lot of informal events isn't something that works for everyone. So what I would firstly do, if elected, is I would make sure I know all of the other members in the board. Make sure I know what their needs are, their strengths, their weaknesses. And thereafter, look into what sort of group and what sort of work can we do as a group together. What sort of maybe team building practices works for us. Because I think it's very important that we realize that all of the different things isn't really suitable for all different groups. And after this work, I will throughout the year work with a lot of feedback sessions and have a high group within the board. So everyone feels both safe and comfortable saying exactly what they think. Because if everyone just follows, as someone said, the one that's screaming the highest, it won't be beneficial for neither the organization or the board. So that is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then we move on to the third question, which is regarding engagement in SASSE. So this question actually have 3 parts, and I will start asking about the first part, and then we'll move on to part B and C. So the first part of the question is, how will you make sure that everyone who wants to get involved in SASSE has the opportunity to do so? And Filip, do you want to go first?
Okay, this is quite similar to one of my election promises. And I think this is super difficult, but I think that everyone who wants to be involved in a student organization should be able to do so. That's a prerequisite for our student association. And how do you do that? We have these like interviews on the written side, which is good in a lot of ways. But I also like the kind of things that you have with Hamburg, we've had with SNC, and there are a lot of other parties have as well. With very, very small roles, which doesn't take too much time, it doesn't take too much effort, but it gets you a foot inside the door, right? And as soon as you're in, then you can evaluate, I think this is something for me, but you should get the opportunity to do so. So I would like to propose more roles of that kind. Can you find within the project? That's great. You don't have to, but we want to encourage it. More very small roles, just to get the foot inside the door.
Thank you. Rebecca, you want to go next?
Yes, what I would say is this is also connected to one of my election promises. It is the initiative fund. So the initiative fund has been around for several years. There's also budgeting for it every year. But I believe every board struggles with finding students who want to actually apply for it. And I think I've seen like several problems with the initiative fund. There's very high biology. First, you're supposed to go in front of the SASSE board, present your idea, which could be very scary. I mean, I knew as a first year, there was a lot of new people, and I wouldn't have had the courage to go in front of them and think that this is a good idea. So therefore, I want to make it less biocracy with the initiative fund, but also make students aware that it exists. And at the same time, realize what can you actually use it for. I mean, if there's a group that wants to have a stock discussion with a lot of members, they can apply for FICA. Or maybe a master class wants to have an event with their class, for example. Then maybe they can apply for some funding. Because SASSE is supposed to please engage all members. So we have to find those members that are without the organization, but still want to engage, to find their place.
Thank you. Yeah, so for list.
Yes, I think all of the 4 of us had something similar as this as one of our election promises. And it's super important. I agree with both of what you're saying. I believe that lower engagement roles is key. It is having more roles available for students to try things out. It can be for a day or for a week, but not having to commit. And I think this can help with so many problems. And I think that we need to encourage committees and projects to early on, especially during fall recruitment, because I believe a big problem has to do with fall recruitment, that not many people know what roles to apply to. They get rejected, and therefore they're not invited into SASSE. So there, we need to encourage committees and projects to take in more people. It could be for a day. I mean, there's need to have FICA for a day, take a few students in to just help out, so they get to try a little bit of SASSE and get talked to a few new people. And then with fall recruitment, I mean, it has been talked before about this, but that in the beginning of the first year, you're applying for all these committees and projects, and then you can get accepted into more than one. I think it's moving forward. We should really look into perhaps having a limit of 1 role per student on this arm.
Thank you, Brian.
Cool. I completely agree. I think local commitment roles are something that everyone agrees on, and we've seen that in past election processes as well. However, I still realize that there's a big discrepancy between the amount of people who manage to get involved during fall recruitment or local commitment roles and people who want to get involved. And I think what we should focus on is stuff we've done in the past with something like a suggestion box, which we had on the website previously. Now the website is kind of ass, and we're working on it, but I think that's something we should look into in the future. I also think polls is a great way to engage people. I saw a supporter wants to do it with the merge, and I thought about this. Imagine TEDx, for example. for hours discussing what type of lecturers we want to have. Whether it was a psychologist or someone who had been a mathematician or someone who's traveled around the world, been in the army. When we're sitting for hours discussing between these four topics, why don't we just post on Instagram and say, hey, what do you guys want? Right? And then when somebody votes saying they want to see a mathematician, they come to TEDx and have a mathematician speak. Isn't that powerful in a sense? Like you get to somehow feel involved in an organization where you've been rejected during the fall, during the winter, and you still attend the parties, you still go for lunch lectures, you still want to get involved. And now finally you get a chance to do so by actively giving input. Actively giving input through surveys or polls. And they don't have to be complicated. It could be something you send to an email, it might not have that many responses, but an Instagram poll is super convenient. I really thought what I was about corridor master today was amazing, and I actually had it in my election process before as well. So, yeah, 10 out of 10.
Thank you so much for that answer, all of you. Okay, so next question, that is part of this large engagement question, we'll have what will you do in order to facilitate master students involved in SASSE? And someone, do you want to go first on this one?
Yes, I think both these are pretty similar. I think that with master students, you could argue that there's many of them have the time to put into SASSE engagements, and therefore I also think the answer to that issue could be lower engagement role, perhaps making clear how much time a certain role is expected to take for you in a working week, so they can balance it with studies and work. But also, I talked to Erik from Masters Club a little bit about this, and I think a lot of masters perhaps doesn't want to, get involved in the sense that they want to work on certain committees or projects, but rather just feel included in the conversation, feel invited to the events that otherwise are branded as bachelor events almost. So I think it's super important to make sure that everyone feels welcome just by making sure that, we're also communicating this event in master's channels so it doesn't feel excluded.
Thank you so much.
I do agree that it's very important to incorporate master students, and I'm going to be frank. I, as a bachelor student myself, did not have that much knowledge on what the needs are for my master students. So I reached out to both people who have very high roles within the association that are master students, but also very people who are not engaged at all. And one thing I came to realize there is, yes, there are a need for roles that have very low commitment, no sign up, so maybe having an informal pub event. But then we have the problem that we're not able to reach out to the master students. And I think one problem, well, solution there is a lot of master students are also international students. And they want to feel engaged, but they don't know how or what the types of events are. And I know a lot of master students who are international uses WhatsApp, for example. And maybe we should set up a WhatsApp channel where we can publish different events for them, so we really make sure that we reach out to all the master students. What I also would do is when it comes to the introduction. I want the SASSE board to be more involved in the master introduction, attend more events, maybe go with them to Taxinga and maybe go to all the different events. Because I think if they get to meet the SASSE board, they know that they are welcome as well. And maybe at the banquets, spread out the SASSE board. Make them talk to master students in a way, because for this year at least, it's only going to be bachelor students in the board. So I think it's important to minimize the gap between master and bachelor students, but also have more coordinated events together with bachelor intro and master intro. I think that is the main things I would do for the master students to make them more involved.
Thank you, Rebecca. Filip, you're on next.
I think Rebecca is right. Yeah. I think it's super difficult to know what master students want because I have no clue. I'm 20 years old. I'm a second year bachelor. I don't know what their life looks like. So I think it's essential that you talk to people who are actually master students. What do you want to do in SASSE, right? What do you have time for, and what do you want to do? I think we also have to work a bit more with awareness towards the master student. Because we have the same kind of problem with the bachelors, that a lot of bachelors that I know. They think that SASSE is just partying and having fun, and they want to prepare themselves for some kind of working life, right? So if you can spread awareness that we have really cool projects, with like Stockholm is super cool, and a lot of projects where you study for a year, you have no experience whatsoever, and out of nowhere you're in charge of a lot of money and a lot of people. And that's a great experience, which you might not be able to get if you apply or something, you know? So I think that's something that we can spread more awareness about. Let's talk more to the master student, let them be in charge.
Thank you. Brian?
Hello. Yeah, cool. So I've also spoken to a few master representatives, both involved and not involved, because just like Philip, I'm a bachelor student, I have no idea realistically what they want or what they don't want. Or what I've come to realize is that the balance we have today is pretty fine for most people. Like we've established, master students are in a different phase of their life, they're working more, they have other priorities, and like Philip said, the general notion is that SASSE is pretty party heavy and that's all we do. I've had the privilege of working with 2 master students during my TEDx project, and that leads me to my next one. I think a lot of master students don't know that they can apply for bachelor, or what are considered as traditionally bachelor program projects. Sorry, long phrase. So marketing that more, whether that's through Master's Club or through the website, I see a lot of potential on the website, and I'm going to stress this constantly. The website is like the best thing we can do for everyone, because it's a touch point that reaches out to everyone, irrespective of your cultural and academic background. International master, bachelor, someone who's here on an exchange. If you have somewhere you can go to where you know where you can find stuff, isn't that great? So it's just a bunch of different touch points throughout over various platforms. We're looking into WhatsApp at this point, right? So communicating more clearly what you actually can get involved in, I think, is vital. But also emphasizing what they're already involved in. I've heard that, or what I've gathered, is that a lot of masters go to eating practices, for example, and encouraging a culture there where you might take a pub together someday, or doing something more within the city, watching a game of top flight, or not watching a game of top flight, watching a game of, I don't know, volleyball, right? Doing more stuff like that, because SASSE is more than just sparring and drinking.
In all of the committees in SASSE, and Rebecca, you want to go first or so?
Well, first I would say I think it's important that we distinguish international students to non-Swedish speaking students, because there's a really large difference depending on you lived abroad or you are Swedish. But what I want to do when it comes to the committees is that in the international committee we have some sort of buddy system. Now you get to apply to, you meet a student at SASSE and you become a buddy. I want to implement this into all the committees, and thereby have a lot of maybe like an exchange program as a buddy system is, that you meet someone from that committee, you apply to find a buddy, and then you can talk to them. And maybe get to know like, okay, I'm very interested in photography, and when I come here I want to apply as a buddy system in the media committee. Then I will get a closer connection to the committee, but I also think that will lower the threshold for non-Swedish speaking students to actually apply to different committees. So to have some sort of connection, I also think that will make them more incorporated in the different committees.
Thank you. Brian, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. When I look at this, I see 2 big things. And the first thing is, there isn't a lack of international students who want to get involved in SASSE. There are clear numbers on that we have plenty of applicants in different varying projects. But the problem is that they don't feel like they can. And I think that comes down to, first of all, language barrier, which everyone's aware of, but also the cultural barrier. And I think the cultural barrier is what we need to focus on in the short term, because that's what we can tangibly affect. The fact that, for example, recruitment mingles tend to be in Swedish. Right? You have no idea who's talking from a corner, hearing that you're talking Swedish and feeling excluded, and that person eventually won't apply for a project. There's more to it than just speaking Swedish because you're comfortable. And I'm not suggesting that we should force everyone to speak Swedish all the time. I don't think that's reasonable. We are a majority of Swedish speakers. But I think that, for example, when it comes to interviews, start in English. When it comes to recruitment mingles, do it in English. it isn't that hard, and that sense of inclusion contributes to quite a bit. And there's one more thing that I want to touch on, and that's the stigma that comes with speaking English in a school where a majority of people speak Swedish. The fact that you are a group of 5 people who speak Swedish, that it's weird to say that you want to speak English instead. I don't think that should be a stigma, and I think that's something we should focus on because that's where SASSE is heading, and that's where SASSE should be heading as well. It isn't weird to say, hey, can we speak English instead, right? That isn't something that should be stigmatized or taboo. And I think that's really tangible.
Yeah, thank you so much. Filip, do you want to go next?
Yeah, it kind of like, as Ryan said, it's not very difficult because international students aren't any different. They're just students born in another country. And if you just speak a language that they can act you to or with, then they will. So I don't think it's much harder than that. Try to talk English all the time, and I think we can actually force people to speak English. At least in formal events, where it is quite often, but also in less formal events. And this is something that I think we in SNC done quite well, not perfectly, but quite well. That even if we are in our room in Bush, if there is someone even remotely close who doesn't speak Swedish, then everyone speaks English, even if that person isn't even close to be part of the conversation. Just because it's so natural, so organic to just jump into a conversation all the time. We do it all the time. So they should be able to do so. And that's the way we include it. And start with introducing English, everything English. English.
I think they're great answers, and I agree with you. I think there's 2 main points here, especially with the English aspect, that it's super important that, because the SASSE has president having English as official language, while still there are several committees and there are several events that often tend to get changed into English. And I noticed this a lot during the introduction, because I was part of the introduction committee, and this year there's more international English-speaking students in different groups, but many felt that, oh, here comes the group, oh, you don't have any English-speaking, max time you speak Swedish. So people often tended, and even SASSE officials, but also officials from the schools, that often tended to, oh, max then I would talk Swedish. And I think it's super important to just establish that as a groundwork to not switch into, did I say Swedish or English? Not switch into Swedish. It's super important that we have recruitment meetings, interviews, and all communications to be entirely in English. And I also think that Rebecca said something really great about, your idea with the buddy system from different communities, and I think it's important to make sure that international non-English, non-Swedish speaking students that come to SSA, that they don't feel that, oh, INTO is the only committee that I can get involved with. Because I think it's super important that other committees take responsibility there, and also making sure that INTO isn't perceived as, oh, this is the only place where you can get engaged.
Great, thank you so much. And I also want to say that if you go to the election committee Instagram, we have a question poll, so you can send in your questions if you have any questions to the candidates, so then we will ask them then. And you that are sitting here right now, you will also have the opportunity to ask them in person after I have asked all the questions. Then you can just raise your hand, or you can write on Instagram. Okay, but moving on to the 4th question about engagement as well. And I think some of you already touched upon this, but how do you plan to balance the increasing requirement for professionalism that roles in SASSE entails, while keeping it fun, casual, and manageable alongside studies? So Ryan, you want to start on this one?
I think it's first of all important to differentiate between certain roles, as we covered earlier. Some roles are intended to be purely fun and something you do for a night. Others are more serious. And I think there's value that some projects are doing today in having stuff like workshops, where you go and you learn about leadership and organizations and stuff that help you grow as a person and realize the fun in doing this. You're doing it as a group as well. I think that's really cool, and I think we should see more of those initiatives for everyone, especially people who are involved in SASSE. And I think maintaining engagement is also super important, and doing so through multiple internal events. but also for those also having more internal events for people who've gone with these one night or one evening roles. Right now, most of the internal stuff, where you reward people who have participated in SASSE, is done for people who spend a longer period of time in the organization, and that is completely reasonable. But if we're talking about maintaining engagement and maintaining people who want to be a part of this organization, we should tailor to the ones who don't have the time because they do other stuff, because they're interning or learning Spanish as a side of work as well. So that's how I would focus on.
Yeah, thank you. Someone, you're on the next.
Yes, I have a quote from former President Agri, who said that SASSE should be a professional playground, and I think that is a great quote to always remember when you do the SASSE projects. SASSE is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be a place where you can feel safe and try new things, gain new experiences, learn new friends, get to know new friends. I think it's super important that while we have all these professional parts of SASSE, everything should be done with in English. But it's super important that you remember that SASSE is a place where you can try and you can fail, where you can come and say something that's completely stupid and still no one's going to judge you or blame you. So I think you need to remember that while it's serious, we're all here to have fun. I don't know if I should keep going.
Thank you so much. And Filip, you're on the next.
Yeah, this is really difficult, especially at a school like this, where people have a lot of ambition and people are driven. And even if you get part of the commitment role in theory, since people start to care so much about what they're doing, what they're performing, they start to work a lot more than maybe they have to for the role. So that's really difficult to tackle. That's something that has to be discussed all the time. I don't really know how to solve it. I try to, but it's difficult. The second part is, I think it's good if you can try to split up roles. You will include more people into SASSE, if you can divide roles. And also, it will be harder to work too much if the additional labor is conducted more fair. Main points.
Yeah, thank you. And Rika.
Yes, I'm really in line with all of the things you are mentioning, and also what someone was mentioning about SASSE is supposed to be fun. We all do it as voluntary work, but fun is also different for all different people. So, I mean, something is fun to learn something new, something is fun to arrange a party, something is fun to maybe just socialize and network with people. And I think one of the most important things when it comes to getting a role within SASSE is to really understand what are you getting yourself into. I mean, I remember when I was a first year student, a few weeks in, and you know the saying SASSE has applied to everything or get nothing. But the thing is, if you get a role, maybe two, or some people get offered several roles because they took the chance to apply to so many different things, they want to take it on. But they will realize that it is a lot of work. And if they take on too many roles, then the problem is they will maybe prioritize the professional part. Maybe do all of the boring work that some people think it is, and then you will have time to be part of informal events, go to dinner with your team, or I don't know, maybe just watch a movie. And therefore I think it's very important that if we really divide up the professional part, or I mean divide up the workload for each role, what is asked of you, the intensity, then you will take on the role that you feel you manage. And then you have time to have both fun, but also get the professional part out of SASSE. So more quality over quantity within roles, I would say.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, and then I only have one question left. And this question is about student health and sustainability. So the question is the following. Student health is a relevant issue in need of continuous work. What will you actively do as president to continue to improve student health here at SASSE? Filip, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, this is very difficult, and I think that it's very good. Some of the things that SASSE has done previously, like we've had like psychiatrists and stuff like that, which we've like been able to connect students with in order to help with mental problems. But I think that's, it's very good that we're doing those kinds of things, but we have been doing those kinds of things, but it's a little bit that we're curing the reaction and not the illness. And the reason that a lot of people, probably most students, are stressed and are feeling bad is because of schoolwork. So I think that the most important aspect of this is that you have good communication with the school, which is difficult, everyone who's tried it. But if you talk to the school as something that like the education committee, something that they have to run courses, classes, everything that's being conducted within the actual school, and that we can communicate that towards the school to see what we can do to fix it.
Thank you. Rebecca, Alex?
Yes. Well, first of all, we can start by stating it is actually the school who is responsible for the student health. But they are not as committed, and they have delegated over the thing to the SASSE, to the Student Association. And we are a limited organization with limited funding. And I know exactly as you mentioned, we have a counselor you can go to for free that is at the Stockholm University. I've been there, but I got the feeling that they don't really understand maybe homeless students at the Stockholm School of Economics. They don't maybe understand how the work is here because they are sitting at Stockholm University. And what I would do, I know this is a very ambitious goal, but I have been in different organizations and we have done a lot of funding. There is a lot of grants to get from many different organizations in Sweden for this purpose. And if I'm elected, I also want to further work with this and examine if it's possible to get these grants and maybe have a SASSE counselor in the school for 1 day or 2 days or only an afternoon. And it's not something that can be solved in 1 year, but we can maybe lay a foundation this year and work toward it in the future afterwards.
Thank you so much. Solveig, you want to go next?
Yes, I agree that this is not a simple question. This is something that requires time, requires a lot of energy to solve the big issue with student health. I do want to say that I think the SASSE project, working on this, SASSE Health has done an amazing job with regards to enabling people to visit the counselor or reminder. But I do believe that this is all the SASSE responsibilities. So I think all communities, all parties should work on this, have this as a priority, making sure that, if we are going to recruit people, making sure that they know how much time and effort it's going to take for them if they have this role, how much time they will have to spend on this. Making sure that people don't take on too much and get stressed. Secondly, I also think it's important how we communicate around certain topics like internships, exchange credits that you get from SASSE projects. We're often encouraging people to work on this, apply for this, get a job, do so much that you get a lot of points, you can go on a nice exchange semester. I think it's also important that we remind students that we don't always have to be the best, because I think this is something that many homeless students always feel. But importantly, I also think that the school has a huge responsibility in this, and I know Lulu has worked a lot with the school in regards to how courses are managed and structured, but we need to continue working on that. And secondly, I also think it's with Carol Dickner that works with diversity and inclusion at the school has done an amazing job with that. And I also think it's very reasonable to have someone similar working with student health at the school present here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I can't do anything but agree with everything you guys have said so far. It's a very hard topic to discuss, and it's been discussed, challenged, and dealt with somewhat, tried to be dealt with over several years. I think that we as an association need to take on more of an activist approach when it comes to the school in a matter like this, especially when it is such a serious thing, because there's so many. Talking about project leader SASSE Health Group, and she felt like SASSE Health Group today had basically no impact at all because we've lost our mind with grant. And returning back to the grant thing, that's a great idea. I think we should continue seeking grants, and I think that's something we should do within SASSE. Try and help the school in that sense, because obviously they have been very cooperative start working groups, organizations, project groups where you seek grants, potentially even start a fund where not committees, sorry, organizations can donate, because like you said, it's something that people strongly believe in. The minor grant was given to us by Lagergren, for example, 2 years ago, and unfortunately that's run out by now, but I think that's something we should constantly strive towards and strive towards both seeking grants but also opening the possibility to have a fund. I don't think it's unrealistic to start that within a year. And like I said, with the activist approach when it comes to the school, I really agree when it comes to pushing for someone as a contact person or someone who deals with it. It's not necessarily an in-house counselor, because that might be unrealistic to ask for, but someone who can help. Because right now, like we've all established, student health isn't supposed to be dealt, but we're dealt with by SASSE alone. It's something the school should have a hand in, and currently they don't. I believe Pontus is the utmost responsible person right now. And that's embarrassing, quite frankly.
Thank you so much for all of your answers. So we have a little time left, and I don't have any more questions for you. So is there anyone in the audience that have any questions to our candidates or one of the candidates? Just raise your hand and we'll come up with a microphone to you. No questions? Or if you have a question but don't want to say it in front of everyone, you can go to Instagram again and write a question that you have to ask. Yeah, we have a question. Somebody you want to?
I can speak like this so everyone can hear me.
Okay, that's fine.
I think the questions that you've asked are very important. Some of the things that have been talked about are very, very critical, such as the inclusion of international students, the inclusion of master's students, etc., etc. And many of the answers have been very diligent from an operative viewpoint, in suggesting exactly what should be done. But I also think that as in order to attend to these issues, there's also an aspect that is cultural, that is less tangible. And I guess my question is, in your opinion, from a leadership perspective, how do you think that a leader influences culture?
Good.
What I would say is a leader is someone who should lead by example. And that is a very important thing. As a president, for example, you should use the English language in every situation you are in. Or maybe show that you can be in different communities or be some sort of inspiration to all of the students at school. But I think, as I mentioned first, lead by example. Speak English, feel and make sure everyone feels included, and actually listen to the members. Listen to what different cultures do we have here? How can we actually incorporate them?
Yeah,
I'm glad that you agree it's a cultural thing as well. And I think I can agree more here as well, the fact that you should lead by example. But also, I know that with SASSE there's a lot of workshops together, and I think it's super important that we as a board take a stance saying that this is how we should look at the issue. Because then within the committees, their committee boards are going to take a stance, and then after that, their projects are going to take a stance. And this isn't necessarily something that's going to happen this year or the year after, but it's something we should slowly be working to, and always have this in the back of our minds when we deal with it. Again, it starts with, like Rebecca said, leading by example, and making sure that this isn't something we take lightly, and the fact that we want to maintain engagement from everyone, because SASSE should be a place for everyone, irrespective of everyone.
Yeah, somebody.
I can't add anything but really agree with Rebecca what you said about leading by example. I think operationally we need to, I think it's time to quite forcibly make sure that, not with force, but make sure that interviews, recruitments, that mingles, SASSE is always kept in English. I think we need to also make sure that the school follows with this, because I've heard a lot of comments about teachers often switching to Swedish, and that a lot of academic counseling is even in Swedish. So that's the language part. I think it's also super important with the SASSE board and their work that it's often easy to guess around a topic that you don't understand. I think I don't know everything about student health and inclusion and how it is to be an international student at SASSE. I know very little about it. So I think it's super important that as the position of the board or as the leader of the board, to make sure that these are the students that are heard, that we're actually always listening to what is being said. I think Ryan, you mentioned a lot of good examples of how one can do that more efficiently, but making sure that we're not guessing around these issues. It's easy to say something, but we must always remind that there are actually people and that we have so many different situations, unique situations in regards to different students.
Yeah, thank you. Anthony.
I think, like, my first reaction when you ask a question is, like, exactly as you said, that you should lead by example, and more operatively, to lead by example by speaking English all the time, well, those very type of things. But maybe I don't really know what those cultural things you're mentioning are. And I think that is due to the fact that I am Swedish. I've been to Swedish schools for my entire life. I hadn't spoken English in an informal manner until I started at the school. So I don't know those kinds of things. I have to get help if I want to do those things in a good way, because I can try, but I will probably not do a good job if I'm doing it on my own. So I think that for those cultural types of things, I have to ask people from other cultures, what do you feel is the issues? What makes you feel unwelcome here? And how can I fix them? Kind of.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we still have a few minutes left. So is there anyone else that have a question to the candidates? Isabel, do we have any questions from the Instagram? That's appropriate. And if you have a question, once again, that you don't want to ask in front of everyone, then you can just write into
All right.
Yeah, we have a question in the back. The microphone, or you want to shout?
I'll do that.
Okay.
With a very short answer, one sentence, what is the most important thing for a president of SASSE? What is the most important thing as the president of SASSE? One sentence, please.
Keeping everyone happy.
Listening to the members.
I'll just say engagement. I always.
It's my drive. Keeping everyone happy and satisfied.
Great. And we also have some questions for the Instagram. There's just like one short question we'll ask you. So, what would make you a good president of SASSE? So, yeah, Filip, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm good at those types of things that I think I have some experience in leading people. I think it's very, very fun, and I think that makes you do a good job in some sense. And I'm willing to learn. And
I love this organization. I've had the luck to be involved in a lot of different projects, and I want to keep helping people get involved in these projects. I feel I've had some previous leadership experience, and I'm very comfortable with the idea that I don't know everything, and the fact that there are a lot of people in here who are much smarter than me. And just like Phil said, I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to do my best.
I can go ahead. I would say, like, during the past year, I have low commitment roles. I have roles that are intermediate, but also one of the hardest in the association. I have seen the association from so many different perspectives, but also seen so many people go through being a first-year bachelor student, going into the grand entrance, coming in here, and now seeing them at doing so many amazing things, talking to company, drafting contracts, throwing parties for 400 people. I see opportunities in this organization, and I want to give all those opportunities, or each member the opportunity to live them, arrange them, or attend them, I would say.
I've been at SASSE for a year, and I like the school, but what it's made this year, I think, absolutely incredible is thanks to the student association. All the lessons I've learned and all the people that I met in this organization. I love it, I think it's great. I do believe there's many areas where it can improve, and I believe that I would be a good candidate to become president, to lead the board, and make sure that all the board members are heard, to be unbiased, make sure that everyone is being listened to, and make sure that every member really has great of a time that I have had the last year.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of the answers, and thank you for the questions. So I see now our time is up, but I think our candidates deserve a round of applause. So yeah, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening.